Well, first off, we just want to thank everybody for being here. I'm blown away at the turnout. This is incredible to see. So there's a lot of new faces here. There's a lot of people we've been involved with and some we haven't. So I just want to take a quick second to give you guys a quick picture of who we are and why we're here doing what we're doing. So obviously we're the Young Republicans of Northeast Alabama. Kind of the thing that we go by is Young Conservatives, 18 to 40 is what we draw our membership from, but obviously all ages of conservatives, we're happy to have you involved. So welcome to everybody, and again, and thank you for being here. Just, you know, the best way to answer why we're here doing what we're doing, I think, is to kind of go back to some statistics. Something that I think is very important is we've got 30 or more Democrats qualified for different state Senate seats, and 70 or more Democrats qualify for House races throughout the state. So, not anything against any of those people, but we obviously have different values. We have conservative values that we hold dear. So we're here to combat that rising tide of Democrats across the state. You know, Dylan and I were just talking this week. There's a Young Democrats organization that's starting up out of Birmingham. So again, we're just happy to have everyone and happy to combat that rising tide of Democrat socialism with some conservative ideology. So again, thank everyone for being here. So kind of what we'll do tonight is we'll kind of handle some organizational business, just quick updates from the chapter. I'll be as brief as I can with that, because what we're really here to do is hear from Jackson County's candidates for sheriff tonight. And, you know, again, we're happy to hear from these guys. We're happy they're, you know, willing to come share their ideas with us. That's what we're here talking about, is ideas. That's what it comes down to. So we're glad they're here to share their ideas with us, and we're blessed to have them in our presence. So just transitioning shortly into club updates. The first thing we're going to kind of talk about, so this is our first meeting of 2018, so we've got some officer changes. So the chairman position is going to remain the same. I'll continue to be the chairman for 2018, but we do have a change at vice chairman. So Logan Engel, I know a lot of you guys know him, some of you may not. He was our vice chairman for all of 2017. Did an incredible job for us, but then he moved out to LA and left us, so maybe he's out there spreading conservatism in LA. So everybody pray for it, please. But anyway, so without further ado, I want to introduce our new vice chairman, somebody that you guys know very well, Dylan Smith.
Well, first of all, thank you all for coming out tonight. You know, just real puts a big smile on my face to see this big of a crowd here. This is really the first time that us as an organization has had a presence in Jackson County. So we're hoping to further champion the conservative movement here in Jackson County by getting millennials over here and just really trying to have great turnouts at events like this, and just really doing all that we can to help our party and to help it grow and to help the citizens of our county and of really our whole Northeast region by implementing strong conservative principles and policies. So with that, I'm proud to serve as the vice chair of our organization. I bring some campaign experience and some official party experience with me, and I'm just really proud to continue to carry the torch of conservatism here in Jackson County. And so next I'm going to introduce Mindy Jo Britt. She's our state committee woman, and she'll be talking to y'all.
Okay. As he said, I'm Mindy Jo Britt. I'm the state committee woman. I'm proud to be a part of this group, and I'm excited to see everyone here. And while I have your attention, I'm going to go ahead and campaign a little bit for our social media. We will be trying to get out more, because that is the #1 way to reach young Republicans nowadays. So if you ever see us on Facebook popping up, or Twitter, or whatever platform you may use, feel free to share, like, add on, and it's just good to see everybody tonight.
Okay, and then so Mindy served with us in 2017, and she was a great help to us. Like she said, she's been very needed in the social media aspect. And the next officer I'll introduce is somebody that we've just brought on board this year, our new state committee man, Lewis Pitchford.
I want to thank Cole and Dylan for putting this event together. You know, it's really important that as conservatives we get together and talk about our values and combat the rise, like he said, of democratic socialism. So it's just really important that we get together and kind of just let the community know what we're all about. So I know some of you may not know me, but I've worked with Congressman Mo Brooks in the past, and I've had some party experience. So I'm just really looking forward to being a part of this organization and representing you guys at the state level. Thank you.
And then a couple other officers I want to recognize really quick that weren't able to make it tonight. Our secretary, my wife, Jade Rollins. Hopefully she's watching at home on the live stream. If she's not, I'm a little disappointed. And then our treasurer, Quincy Akins. Like I said, they've also been very necessary in all that we did in 2017, and we're excited to kick 2018 off with a group of awesome leadership to hopefully, like I said, combat that rise of democratic socialism that seems to be out there. So that kind of handles our officer changes. The next thing I'll talk about is just our 2018 membership. I've tried to put some information on each of the tables and around, so if you're not at a table, there should be some at a table near you. But if you don't mind, sign in there and just put your information. If you're interested in becoming a member, there's a column. All you got to do is put a Y in there for yes, and then we'll follow up with you about the rest of it. But, you know, like Dylan kind of talked about a little bit, we're really excited to expand our net into Jackson County. There's a lot of good things politically happening here. There's a lot of good people that are coming out of Jackson County. We're happy to get behind those guys and support them. So obviously, as our membership grows, our influence grows. So these people that we get behind as Republicans that we want to make sure get elected, the larger our membership grows, the more influence we can have for those people. So just keep that in mind. And anybody that you think might be interested, you know, we would love to have them. And shortly to touch on this, there are a couple more officer positions that we're looking at filling. So if there's anybody in the room or anybody that you know of that may be interested in becoming an officer with the Young Republicans, please talk to me after the meeting and we'll talk to you about how to do that. So, next thing I want to talk about shortly is our calendar and newsletter. I think some of you have been getting that, have been seeing it. So I just want to talk briefly about why we're doing that, what the thought process behind that calendar and newsletter is. For about 4 years now, I've been involved in the Republican political landscape of Northeast Alabama, and I found myself at times looking for what's going on. I don't think there's been a cohesive grouping of all the political events that Republicans are hosting throughout Northeast Alabama. So that's what we're hoping to do. We're hoping to fill that void and get the information about what's going on out there. So these candidates with ideas that we believe in are making sure that people with those same ideas are showing up to their events. So again, if there's, you know, you're near a table, there should be a calendar near there. It should have all of 2018 on it. If you're running for an office or if you know something that's going on politically in Northeast Alabama, just jot that down on there, and I'm going to collect all this stuff at the end. We'll make sure that gets added to our calendar that goes out on all of our social media, as well as our newsletter that we're starting. Again, just want to circle back to this. That's why the sign-up sheet is so important for getting an email in there, because that's one way that we're going to make sure that we're getting that calendar of events for Republican political events out in 2018. So please make sure to do that. And then the last thing I want to talk about as far as club updates, you know, obviously we have our monthly meetings. It's going to be the second Monday of every month, and we kind of flip-flop between Jackson County and DeKalb County. So, you know, obviously get involved with that, and we hope that you will continue to show up and be involved. But one event that we're really trying to funnel a lot of people to, on April 9th, we're going to be hosting somewhere here in Jackson County. Scott Dawson, he's running for governor. Will Ainsworth is running for lieutenant governor. And then our incumbent U.S. Congressman Mo Brooks will be joining us as well. So we got a good lineup of people with great conservative ideology that we want to make sure that we show a good event for. So, you know, we'd love to have y'all support and spread the word about that event. Once we get a venue confirmed, we'll start hitting the airwaves on social media, newsletter, all of those things. So we would definitely appreciate you guys sharing that and helping us gain some traction for that event. Also, if there's any suggestions for a good venue in Jackson County for an event of 200 plus people, please talk to me afterwards and make some suggestions. We were hoping to do the high school, but that's kind of fell through. So anything that you guys know of, I don't know Jackson County, I would love to hear about it. So, and then the last thing, again, just touching on the calendar of events. You know, please make sure you jot your events down if you're a candidate. And there's plenty of the little February and March event calendars laying around, so take those with you to make sure that you know what's going on so you can make sure to be there to support these guys. And then next thing we'll do is we're going to transition into what we're here to do is hear from the candidates. But before we do that, I just want to take a second to recognize all of our current office holders. So let's start to my left and work our way around the room. If you're currently holding an office, county level, state level, whatever it may be, please stand up and tell us what position you hold.
Mike says, District 4, County Commissioner. There's the gun. Steve Livingston, State Senator, District 8, representing DeKalb, Jackson, and part of Madison County. I think you've got a great crowd here tonight. I'm excited to see everybody get involved.
Jason Bell, District 3 County Commissioner.
Joe Gillespie, District 1 County Commissioner. I'm running for chairman this time in 2018.
Tony Wallingford, I'm President of Scottsboro City Council, and I'll be seeking the office of Jackson County Circuit Clerk this year.
I'm Chuck Phillips. I'm the current sheriff.
Any other current office holders in the room with us?
I'm Jerry Atkins, I'm the mayor of Holly.
Anybody else? Well, thank you guys for being here, and to all you gentlemen, thank you for your service. I know sometimes people overlook what all you guys go through, the sacrifices you make to make sure that people of our area and our state are living a better life. So without further ado, I'm going to transition to hearing from our candidates now. Kind of the way this will work is we'll hear about 10 minutes of stump speech from each candidate. And then after each candidate speaks, we'll have a Q&A session until 8 o'clock or until we run out of questions. So I've got some questions prepared, but really more than anything, we're going to want to hear questions from you guys. You know, these are the people that are going to represent you, so I think it's important that you vet these guys and make sure that you know why they're running and what they're going to do when they get into office. So our first candidate we want to welcome tonight is our current sheriff for Jackson County, Mr. Chuck Phillips. Thanks for being here.
Well, like I said, I'm the current sheriff, but first, before we get started, I want to thank all of y'all for coming and thank the Young Republicans for having this tonight. I need to introduce you to my family, my wife, Kim, my daughter, Emily, my son, Jacob, is here somewhere, and Dusty and his wife. So I got a bunch of them here. I got 5 children, so I've got a bunch of kids, but 2 of them are not here. But anyway, about me, I guess, it's really hard to talk about myself sometimes. But I started my life in public service in 1982 when I started with Scottsboro Police Department. I worked as an officer for a couple of years. I was promoted to sergeant, which was at that time was a shift supervisor. Later, they decided to make lieutenants shift supervisors, so I was promoted to lieutenant. And I actually came to work for the Jackson County Sheriff's Department in 1988, and I've been there ever since. I stayed in uniform for about 6 months. I went into investigations. I was chief investigator for over 16 years. Eventually was chief deputy and was elected sheriff in 2010. Since I've been sheriff, I hired Rocky Harnan as my chief deputy. He's retired from DEA. He's been a very good asset to the sheriff's office and to Jackson County. We have worked diligently and really good together. We've tried to promote the sheriff's office into the future. We have purchased a CAD system. If you don't know what a CAD is, it's a computer-aided dispatch. We have computers in our cars now, which is a big help. We have a records management system that is connects the jail to the office. Everything's together. The cars are all together. I've actually got about 50 new cameras in the jail, so I can actually see what goes on in every part of that jail right here on this phone. And we can listen to our radios. If I go out of town, we listen to our radios on the phone. When you get far enough outside of radio range and the normal radio won't work, we can hear it on our cell phones. We have currently applied for a grant for body cameras. We received that a couple of weeks ago, so we'll be working on buying body cameras. I'm trying to think some of the other things that we may have done. I can't think of anything right off the bat, but I am running for re-election. I would appreciate any support anyone can give me. I do commend my opponent for his 4 years in the military. I did not serve in the military, but I do commend him for his service. He is a good young man, and I understand that, and that's pretty much all I can say.
Next candidate we want to introduce is the current Hollywood Police Chief, Mr. Jason Hepler.
As he said, my name's Jason Hepler. I'm the chief of Hollywood, and I've been there since 2010. Before I got into law enforcement, I served in the Marine Corps after I saw towers fall on TV on September 11th. I guess the whole world was watching, so we all know and we all remember what we felt that day. And up until that point, my life really didn't have a whole lot of direction. But when I saw those towers fall, I knew that I needed to do something. I needed to serve my country. So I enlisted in the best branch that I could think of, and I joined the Marines. And while I was in the Marines, the entire time I was in there, the U.S. was engaged in a war. So it wasn't an easy time to be in the military, but I learned a lot. I learned a lot about who I am, and I learned a lot of leadership traits that I don't feel like I would have had without that. So fast forward, after the Marine Corps, I got into law enforcement. I actually worked with our current sheriff I worked at the county jail, and I spent, I think, about 2 years there. And I also reserved with the sheriff's department. I volunteered on my time off about 30 hours a week sometimes, as much as I could anyway. And I learned a lot about how a sheriff's office runs. And then I applied to the Hollywood Police Department, where I went to the police academy through them. While I was working full-time, I was raising my family, and I was going to school full-time. And I obtained my bachelor's degree while working full-time and raising family. All right, I went through the police academy, and I hit the road at Hollywood, and I was there about 2 years before I went to work at the Marshall County Sheriff's Office. And while I was at Marshall County, I was a patrol deputy, and I worked a little bit with investigations on a cold case murder file that they ended up solving shortly after I left there. It was a man that had been at a car dealership. And I don't know if anything that I did played a part in them solving it, but the case did get solved. So after Marshall County, after I was gone for a little while, after the Hollywood Police Department, they contacted me back and they said they wanted me to be the police chief there. So I went back, and while I've been at Hollywood, we made a lot of groundbreaking changes for a small agency within our county. We pushed into a little bit more modern, what people would consider a small police department. Much like the sheriff's office, we put computers in our cars. Our officers had mobile NCIC, which is access to the National Criminal Information Center. So rather than just calling in everything into dispatch, our guys can get everything on the fly right there. We know exactly what somebody's warrants are, what their license status is, and it streamlines the process for us. Gives us a lot of information there. Some of the things that I'm running for, and I think the sheriff's office is doing a good job. This isn't a me against Chuck type of thing. This is what I want to see for Jackson County. Not that I think Mr. Sheriff Phillips is doing a bad job, but I want to see us a little bit more into the future, where we're leveraging technology for our, where we level technology and help level the playing field. When we're investigating crimes, and we bring in more up-to-date technology, and we have better training for our deputies. At Hollywood, our guys actually, when they go out and take a report, they're not just taking a report and turning it off to somebody else. We're working that crime from start to finish as much as we can, because our guys are trained and able to do so. And I know that there's a lot of good deputies, and they know what they're doing. I'm not trying to paint the picture that you guys don't know, but there's so much training out there that's free, and we can send these guys off and get them lab certified and certified for different types of forensic cases and crime scene photography and stuff that would really better the sheriff's department. And one thing as a Marine Corps veteran, I'd like to see, I'm going to actually, if I'm elected, I'm going to petition the county commission to make it to where other veterans who have served honorably, not to where they're retired now in order to get the free pistol permit, but anybody that served honorably, I'd like to see them have a free pistol permit, because I think that sacrifice that they've made for their country is worthy of that recognition. So I feel like if we lobby the county commission, that they'd be able to handle that. I don't really have much else to say, I guess, until we get to the questions, but I appreciate everybody that's come out. I appreciate the Young Republicans group for putting this event together, and I think it's good for the community to hear from both sides and know exactly what we're about and where we stand on key issues. So, thank you.
Thank you as well, Mr. Hepler, for joining us. And like I said, at this point, we'll transition to kind of a Q&A. And I want to encourage everyone here to be as engaged as you can with the Q&A. I want you to think about your interactions with the Sheriff's Department, what you think a Sheriff's Department should do. I want you to think through these things that these gentlemen will be essentially writing policy for or writing their rule books for. So think about those kind of things, and kind of the way each question will give each candidate a chance to spend about a minute answering it. I'll moderate if necessary. Maybe we'll run into it. If they get into a fist fight, Dylan, that's on you. I'm stepping out. That's all you. So at this point, we'll go ahead and kick that off. So we'll kick it off, and anybody in the audience that has questions, please go ahead, raise your hand, and we'll kick it off. Yeah, join us up there.
Yeah. Gary Morgan in the Burke. I have actually a question to Sheriff Phillips, and then I would like to hear Chief Hepler's response on this. There's been some controversy within the state of Alabama about the food fund for the jail, also how other funds are used, such as the pistol fund. What do you do, Sheriff Phillips, as far as those funds where there's been controversy within the state?
The funds from the food bill are in the bank. You never know from one month to the next how much the food bill is going to be. Just for instance, last month's bill was over $10,000. I received $9,000 from the state. You have to prepare for what can happen. And you get inmates in there on a special diet, you can't feed them for $1.75 like the state gives them. But because they're on a special diet, I don't get an extra quarter or extra penny to feed them. So you have to save money each month as best you can to prepare for what may happen if the judge puts someone in jail that has food allergies, that has to have special foods, or maybe religious type incidents, diabetic. You have to prepare for those. And also, come Thanksgiving and Christmas, they get a big, big meal that we pay extra for because we prepare for that through the year. So that money is in the bank, and it's sitting there if needed. Now, according to state law, that is my money. That's what the argument's about. It has been offered to the county commission many, many times to take it over, and they have not taken it over yet. And if they want to take it over, they are more than welcome to have it. I think there may be a bill, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Livingston's here, he can tell us that someone's trying to pass a bill where they have to take it. But over the years where I have been in the sheriff's office, they have refused to take it. Yes.
Submit it, give Mr. Hepler a chance.
Yeah, for Chief Hepler, taking into consideration what Sheriff Phillips has said, do you foresee, if you were elected, any changes in the particular food fund or how accounting is handled?
Well, you know, if the county commission's been offered, and that was actually one of my plans, would be to offer to the county commission and for them to take it, because I don't really feel like that particular responsibility should sit on one person. I feel like that's a tremendous responsibility for one person, and I know that if the sheriff was to overspend on a food bill that comes out of your pocket, correct?
Absolutely.
So that's a terrible thing to have, sitting on your shoulders when you're trying to run the sheriff's office and deal with the county, to have to worry about budgeting for somebody's food. Now, if the county commission wasn't to take it, and there was a lot of excess funds, I would like to see that money go for training and equipment for my people to make sure that they're up to date and that their equipment's up to date and we have better equipped technology.
Thank you. Any other questions from the audience?
Chief Hepler, I keep hearing you say about training, kind of insinuating the sheriff's office doesn't get it. I may be misquoting you, but I'd like for you to touch on what training you're talking about, and then I'd like for Sheriff Phillips to touch on the training the sheriff's office does get.
Okay. So with the training, I'm not saying, you may be misinterpreting, I'm not saying the sheriff's department isn't getting training. I'm saying that it's not mandatory at the sheriff's office. So at the state level, when you're dealing with a municipal agency or state police, we're required to have 12 hours of continuing education credits. And that makes sure that we're current and we understand the new laws, or we can have specialty fields that we can work in. The sheriff's office isn't required to have that. So I would make it a policy under my administration that the deputies would be required to have at least 12 hours of continuing education.
And he is correct, it's not a requirement. When that bill was passed, it was only for municipalities. And most of that was because counties could not afford to send their people to school. Our deputies go to school, they pick the schools they want to. If it coincides with the job they're doing, we will send them. We've got 2 going here pretty quick to a conference. All of our investigators, they attend all kinds of schools through the years. Craig can tell you, I don't know, he's been there a long time. He's probably got 25 certificates of schools he's been there. We do train. We do train. We do have some free training here occasionally. The DA's office will set up some training. Jason has actually had training at his facility in Hollywood that we have sent deputies to. But we do our training.
Other questions?
I guess I should ask this earlier, but is the jail considered a federal housing facility?
It is.
How much do you get with those federal inmates?
We don't house federal inmates. We are approved for them, but we don't have any, have never, we were approved for them about 2012, but they've never given us any to house.
I guess it's a 2-part question. Do you get any extra money for just holding a bed for the federal inmates?
No.
Any thoughts on the topic, Mr. Hepler?
I have nothing I can put on that.
Other questions from the audience?
I got another question. Hey, I'll ask questions. Sheriff Phillips, what do you see in law enforcement? And of course, this is going to go to Chief Hepler as well, if I may. The largest problem that you have as a sheriff of Jackson County, what is the biggest problem you see that if anything could get solved, what would that be, sir?
Not enough deputies. We do not have the manpower that we need to work in the 3rd largest county in this state. We have a drug problem along with every county in this state and every state in this United States. It's not just here, but you listen to people in the community, they're going to tell you theirs is the worst community ever, and it's not. It's a widespread problem. The sheriff's office is extremely short-handed. If every deputy is working at one given time, and 9 times out of 10, somebody's off sick, somebody may be on a trip to Anniston to pick up a juvenile. Somebody may have to go Kilby to take an inmate. They may have to go pick up somebody for court. Anyway, you may have 2 to 3 deputies to work this whole county. Sometimes there's less than that, and our investigators have to answer the calls. Rocky and I answer calls if necessary. We are extremely short-handed. As far as what the biggest issue is out in this county, it's going to be drugs just like it is everywhere else.
Is the question as what I see at Hollywood or as the county? So,
well, both. From your perspective, it's important. You have a little bit different perspective perspective.
Right.
But you also work for the Jackson. I mean, you work with different law officers and agencies within. So, for your experience, you know, what you see.
The biggest problem within our county, I'll just reiterate what the sheriff said, it'd be our drug problem, you know, as far as the county as a whole. And in any agency within Jackson County, funding is a major issue. That's why we're all understaffed. Hollywood's understaffed. Scottsboro, I'm sure, is understaffed. And the county's understaffed. So it makes fighting this battle that we all see every day, it makes it hard. You know, it's an uphill battle. We hear on the radio, you'll hear deputies running all over the place. My guys will be running all over the place. And a lot of times we're just playing catch up. So it's hard to keep up with what we have when we don't have the manpower for it or the funding for it, you know, for that matter.
Got a question in the back.
Yes, sir.
Do y'all serve coffee at the jail? And if so, do y'all buy it from the local source?
We serve coffee at the jail, but we do not have to because it has no health values.
It's not Pine
But-
Brothers. I beg to differ. Pine Brothers coffee is not.
But if you tried 200 people that wanted coffee and you didn't serve it to them, you're going to have a riot on your hands. Yes, we do, and we buy it from the big distributors.
How about in Hollywood? Y'all serving good coffee at Hollywood?
Well, we have a Keurig, so we serve really good coffee.
Uh-oh, Sheriff.
We got K-cups.
Other questions? Tyler?
Currently, there's Senate Bill 3 down in Montgomery. I'm not actually sure the status, but it's been debated for the last couple of years about doing away with the need for a permit, or at least, you know, to have a loaded firearm in a car. And I was just wondering if either one of y'all would ever be open to support that, or just what your thoughts were on it.
You know, I'm for the Second Amendment, don't get me wrong. But let me tell you what's going to happen to Jackson County Sheriff's Office if you do away with a pistol permit and you don't have that $120,000 a year coming in. We're going under. Because that's $120,000 that any one of these commissioners right here tell you they don't have. And we buy patrol cars with that money. We put blue lights on them with that money. We stripe them with that money. We put radios in them with that money. We buy our portable radios with that money. We pay for our CAD system each year. We have a maintenance fee that we have to pay of $5,000. We pay for that out of that money. Anything we need that the county commission does not fund us for comes out of that money. I have sole say-so over that money. It has to go to the good of law enforcement. That's the only way it can be spent.
I think that if the question was, should we require a pistol permit to carry a vehicle in a car, I don't believe that we should. Okay, because I believe that a car should be an extension of your home. It's your private property, and we have a constitutionally protected right in order to bear firearms, right? I do think that pistol permits are important, but in order to carry it in a vehicle, I don't see how it provides me any protection, because I get background checked when I buy the pistol from the firearms dealer, right? So, and half the people I deal with, this is Alabama, at least half of them are armed anyway. So that piece of paper is not going to protect you. But it is important to have it because if we cross state lines, we're going to need it. And there's other instances where it's important. But just to carry concealed in a vehicle, I don't see why it should matter.
Other questions?
Can I follow up on that pistol permit? What are your thoughts, since you don't think it needs to be for carrying in a car? Do you think that crime is ever stopped by arresting somebody for carrying a concealed weapon before it happens? Because someone doesn't have a pistol permit, can you see where that might happen sometime? And Sheriff, what are your thoughts on that also? In other words, if you have somebody and you stop somebody that's on their way to commit a crime, and you find out they've got a pistol and they don't have a permit, and you put them in jail, technically you've stopped that crime. Would you not say that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very possible, you know, what if.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, I agree that that's very possible, but a lot of times, you know, people that are carrying arms in their car, whether they have a pistol permit or not, if they're going to go commit a crime, if they have a pistol permit, they're going to be able to go commit the crime anyway because they're just going to be released. So there's a lot of what ifs we can sit here and argue, but I mean, my answer still stands that I don't feel like it's necessary for a vehicle.
Well, it's twofold. It has happened, as Rocky well knows. We have had complaints. Somebody's on their way. I just got a phone call. My brother-in-law's on the way. Said he's going to kill me. Okay, if we pull that guy over, he doesn't have a pistol permit, but he's got a gun, and they pass that law, I can't do anything. I'm going to have to give him the gun back and let him go on until he commits that crime. But if he has to have the permit and he doesn't have it, we can stop that crime right there. Granted, it doesn't happen often, but one time can get someone killed.
Can I follow up? So if he had the pistol permit and he made the threat, what's your response then? Because he has the pistol permit, so he's legally carried it.
I don't know. We'll have to cross that bridge when we get there.
So I'd like to follow up a question on the funding related to the pistol permits, if I may.
Yes.
So let's say, theoretically, those funds are gone. The funds that you receive from the pistol permit. Where would you make up, what are ways that you would make up for that lack of funding if that were the case?
Those gentlemen back there would have to fund it. There is no other way. Now, I do get some bond money from bail. When people make bonds at the jail, that money goes back into the jail. That's how I purchased the camera system that we have. I can sit in my office. I have a big screen TV, and I can watch every one of those cameras all day long in my jail, in my office. But that's the only funds that we generate, is from the pistol permit money.
Mr. Hepler, same question to you. If that were the case, as sheriff, where would you attempt to make up that shortcoming?
I mean, we'd have to rely on the county commission to fund us. They'd have to develop a plan in order to compensate for it. And I'm not saying that I think that the pistol permit should go away. I want to be clear on that. I'm saying that I think in that specific instance that it shouldn't be necessary. But I mean, it's the county commission's job to fund the sheriff's office.
I think follow up on that just a minute right there. We had a little thing come up, and we talked about tonight, $17,000 on the fingerprint deal. We the commission, we're trying to do everything we can to help the sheriff. Right. You know, it was not budgeted in this past year in our budget. So it's hard to come out with that. You know, right now, I sit back here and listen. You know, that piece of paper that we're gaining money off of, that has been used to help all the citizens in Jackson County. You know, we can only do so much with the money we get.
Thank you. Other questions?
As far as pistol permit money goes, why is it not written out to the Jackson County Sheriff's Department, but it's written out to you?
Because that's the law.
So can we repeat the question?
The question is, why does the money go to the sheriff and not go to the county commission?
No, that's not what I meant. A department of the sheriff. Right.
What do you mean?
Write the check to Jackson County Sheriff's Office.
You can, if you want to. You can write it to me, or you can write it to the sheriff's office. It all goes in the same account.
Okay. Well, I was confused on that one because
it's just like going to pay your land taxes.
Right.
You can put Jeff Arnold, or you can put Revenue Department office.
Any thoughts on that, Mr. Hepler?
No, there's no stuff I can add to that.
Anybody else from the audience got questions?
There was a mention that Mr. Livingston might know something about the food, the funds that, about a bill where that funding for food would have to go to the county commission. Would it be appropriate to maybe answer that?
No, that's fine, yeah. And if Mr. Livingston, if you want to come up front for the camera. I know you love being put on the spot.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
It's all good. It's camera time, Steve.
I'm sorry. What was the question, Gary?
It's what there was a mention about the funding for prisoners, the food fund. There's a mention that there is a bill before the legislature where all those funds would go to the county commission.
I think it has passed out of the Alabama House or committee in the House last week.
I don't know. I haven't heard.
And it is designed to clear this situation up, yes.
It's passed the House.
I think it's out. It's either out of the committee in the House or passed the full House last week. And I don't, you know, we see 500-600 bills a year, so I can't tell you what name, what numbers. I can go back and answer the question about the pistol permit probably a little bit better, if I may.
The Jefferson County Legislative Delegation has funded their legislative office out of that by pistol permits for a number of years. So just the vast number of those folks, that's not going anywhere. There won't be a free permit. They can block anything in that regard. Thank you, sir. Quick answer.
Thank you. What else you got out there? Who else has questions?
Okay. Senator Livingston said, I believe, that the money's going back into the county commission for the food. So then, what's the interplay between the county commission and the sheriff to feed those prisoners now? How's that
We'll
going
have
to
to
work?
see what the rules are, but you know, when that happens,
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll still be responsible, but they got to understand if it goes over what they get, it comes out of their budget too. So just like when he said it comes out of my pocket, he's talking about my wife in my pocket, not any department, any fund in the sheriff's office. He's talking about my personal billfold. So if we go over budget because of one of these special diets or whatever, somebody's in there for a long period of time, then the county commission, it comes out of their general fund, probably, whatever, how they set it up.
Did legislative folks, did they come to the state sheriff's department or the association to ask their input on that?
They didn't come to me, I don't know. You know, they may have talked to some of the other sheriffs. I have no idea.
Hey Chuck, has it ever gone over? Have you ever had to ask the county commission to help with the food fund?
No, it comes out of my pocket.
Have you ever had to pull it out of your pocket?
No, I'm not intending to do that.
Okay.
So, Mr. Hepler, any thoughts on that question?
No.
Other questions from the audience? Nothing else?
How much is usually left as far as that?
Well, you never know. Like I said, 1 month you go over, 1 month you save a little. Right now, I'm probably holding around $40,000 in the bank. But if the judge sentences somebody to the jail that has to have insure every day,
Right.
that's $4 a day just for one drink, one small drink each meal. That doesn't include extra money to pay for that. I still have to furnish that $1.75 meal plus that bottle of insure, which is $4 a day and the $1.75. So
the inmate don't have any responsibility in that at all?
No.
They don't have to pay for that?
we have had families to bring stuff, and if they want to, something like that is sealed, we will accept, but if it's unsealed, we won't. But it all comes down to the medical problems for that issues. We've got a nurse and a doctor that sees after our jail, and if they say they have to have it, we get it to them.
How many times has that came up?
Oh, several, actually.
Appreciate it. Mr. Hepler, anything to add to that?
I don't know how often they serve it. Sure, I know when I worked there, they served it quite a bit to a lot of the elderly people. I know it's expensive.
That's just one item I picked because it's expensive, but you know, you can go out here and buy food in bulk, and you don't have to pay as much. But when you're having to feed 1 or 2 or 3 people certain items that you can't buy in bulk, you have to go down here to the store or order small amounts. Then you pay more for it.
Other questions?
I got one. Let's get back to the pistol permit. In your law enforcement endeavors, have you ever pulled somebody over and they had a weapon in the car and you took them to jail, not having a permit?
I believe one time.
Just one.
I believe so.
How many vehicles have you stopped that had a weapon that you let go?
That had a weapon that I let go?
Right.
Plenty.
Plenty? Is that plenty?
Yes. It's not illegal to have a firearm. I mean, under the law, it might be, you know, that they have to have a pistol permit, but it's a constitutional right for people to have a firearm.
So you're saying a person's vehicle is an extension of the residence of the person?
Of the person.
Of the person.
Right.
So while it's law in Jackson County, are you going to enforce that law if you're sheriff? Or you're gonna let everybody go just because they got the car?
Well, we have to enforce the laws, right?
Exactly.
But there's a lot of discretion that's involved in enforcing the laws as well.
Well, I just want to know where we're standing. You know, I mean, I'm kind of curious because every weapon that I found in the vehicle that I saw, they didn't have a permit for it. They don't submit it. Because it's a law. You ain't got a permit. You think I want to let somebody come to my courthouse with a weapon? They ain't got a permit for it. What's going to happen?
So, somebody buys a pistol from the gun store, and they just had their background check, and they have to drive in their car to get that pistol home. And you happen to stop them on their way home from where they just purchased a pistol, where they legally purchased a pistol. You're going to put them in jail for transporting their pistol home?
They got a permit for it?
They don't have to have a permit to purchase.
Is the question to me, does that man have a permit after he bought that weapon?
That's the question.
He doesn't have it. He doesn't have a permit. Yeah, I'm going to take him to jail. He should have got a permit before he went and purchased the gun. And most people, did they do a background check? That's where we do it. They get a pistol permit, we do a background check. That's where the background check.
In Alabama, we have open carry. So people can walk around and carry their firearm anywhere they want.
Okay, let's get to open carry. So, I'm walking around.
If I may, can I give Mr. Phillips a chance to respond to that first part of that question?
I don't.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Okay. I'm walking around under Alabama open carry law. Okay? It's legal. But once I sit down in my car, can you see that weapon? No, you can't. You see what I mean?
I understand. I'm not there every day. I understand that.
Even though you're carrying open carry, you sit down in the vehicle, it's concealed at that point. So don't you think you ought to have a concealed weapon permit?
I don't believe it should be necessary. I don't think there's anything that's going to change my mind on that.
Mr. Phillips?
Whatever the legislative session passes, we'll support it and we'll enforce it, whatever it is.
Thank you for the question. Ma'am?
Yes, has anybody ever took it to federal court to, to overturn, you arresting them because the Constitution says?
I don't know.
I've not been involved.
I was involved with a guy in Ardmore, and he took it to federal court and he won. So that's what I was asking. Have you guys ever because they was ruled in his favor.
Not the 36 years I've been doing it, I've never encountered that.
But in Ardmore, they did. They took it down the south and they won. The guy that they gave him back his pistol, gave him back his time he spent in jail. They gave him his money for his bond and his speeding for that. And
well, there's always two sides to the story.
exactly.
Mr. Hepler, any thoughts on the question?
No.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Question of clarification here. You may, if I'm not mistaken, y'all correct me if I'm wrong on this now, you may transport a firearm in a secure compartment such as your trunk, unloaded, with ammunition separate legally. Am I correct on that?
Without a permit, yes, sir.
Without a permit, you can transport it.
If you have that permit, you can carry it up front and load it.
That's okay. That's what I want to clarify here. The difference between transporting a newly purchased weapon, or a weapon, for instance, if you're going for a shooting range, a shooting engagement out of state, there's a proper form and fashion in transporting that weapon. That's, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know what the other state laws are, but Alabama, you can keep it in a locked compartment, out of reach of the driver, without a permit. It'd be perfectly legal.
Other questions?
This goes to both of you. Is either one of you given any thought to community corrections? Do you have any objection to changing the current process, the way it's being done right now?
that's probably a big issue right now that probably should not be answered, because I think that there's some stuff going on in litigation that may not need to say anything over, but if the county commission sees fit to change it, then we'll abide by it. Or the legislative delegation, who's ever got to make that change.
It's tough to answer, you know, because I think that there's some things that they do really well, and I think that there's some things that could be done differently. When we're dealing with probations, I think that we should have a probation officer involved. I don't think that we should see an escape warrant for somebody that didn't show up to be in a cup. I think that's a little bit of stretch of the law. But as far as, you know, there's no way that I can answer that 100% because I haven't worked with them enough to know, you know, exactly what's going on.
Other questions? I'd like to pose another question to those of you if I may. So, you know, it's been referenced once already, but the opioid epidemic is something that's ravaged communities throughout the state. And there are a lot of different thought processes on how people struggling with opioid use, how to best get them out of that cycle. You know, there's a lot of different thoughts on how much incarceration versus therapy and those kind of things. What are your thoughts on the best ways to heal these communities and to heal the lives of these individuals who are facing these battles? Mr. Hepler, if you don't care, I'll let you start it off.
I think that we have a problem with our doctors overprescribing opiates. And to find the solution to that, it's going to take a lot of research to figure out how to justify when people need to be cut off of their medicine. But when they start with somebody that goes into the doctor and says, hey, my back's hurting, and they're getting 120 Lortabs, and there may not be anything wrong with them, they're going to go out and sell those pills and get other people addicted, and we're going to have to find a way to cut that out and stop it. And stop trading one addiction for another when we go from opioids to methadone clinics. You know, I don't see how trading one addiction for another helps anything either. But we need to really focus on how many prescriptions our doctors are writing.
And I agree. This is something that's going to have to be fought on the federal level. We at our level, out of the years I've been here, we have fought a few doctors for overprescribing. I've been involved with the pharmacy board and the board of medical examiners on local doctors. It is hard to find a doctor who went to medical school and says they need these drugs. You know, so you've got to find them, and that's something that's going to have to be fought on a federal level, not locally around here. But as far as jail works for some, it don't work on others. You know, rehab works for some, it doesn't work for others. So it's, you know, right now the jails or the state penitentiaries are so overcrowded. The people who are charged with drug charges do not go to jail. They get out on probation, parole, or go over here, you know, under Mr. Brown and whatever, and get supervised probation because of the overcrowdedness. We're fighting a battle that's going to be hard to fight. That's all I can say.
I've been a nurse for 17 years, and I want to know, when you have somebody with an addiction, how do you handle that as far as coming off of whatever they're addicted to, pain pills, alcohol? What do y'all do?
We leave that up to the nurses there all day long. We actually put them in a cell. They're right across the hall from the nurse.
So
and she can watch them. She's got a TV monitor in her office as well where she can watch that cell.
Do you ever have somebody who go into BTs and you send them to the hospital?
Not in a long time. But back in my days with the city, back in the early 80s, when we had a lot of local townsmen that walked around and drank, yeah, I have dealt with that a lot, but we just don't see that anymore. Now, we have had some to go into DPs that we did have to take to the hospital and they were people.
Mr. Hepler, anything to add?
No, I think that the observation of the nurse is really the best that anybody can do at a jail level. having somebody that's trained in the medical field to watch and make sure. And I'm sure that the nurse would detect if something bad was going on to send them to the hospital.
Thank you. Other questions from the audience? We got plenty of time, so if y'all got questions, ask them.
Okay. I'm going to ask an easier one. Sheriff Phillips, I know this is the first time you ran as a Republican.
Yes.
And so I guess I was just kind of wanting to hear both of you guys' Republican story, you know, like why the Republican Party for both of you.
Well, you're right. I ran as a Democrat in 2010. In 2014, I did not have an opponent. The state Republican Party leader came to my office and sat down and tried to get me to change then. I wish I had. Okay? I didn't. Made a mistake. This last presidential election, you had a lot of Democrats that switched over to be Republicans, I promise you. That's where the landslide came from. Rocky has been a Republican ever since day one, and that was one of the first things he told me when I hired him. He said, you know I'm a Republican. I said, I don't care. But in our years of working together, he said, you know you're more Republican than Democrat, don't you? Just from my views that I had working together. Yes, I switched parties, and I believe in the Republican Party, and that's the way I will stay from now on. The Democratic Party they went crazy. That's all I can tell you. They have went crazy.
So I was raised conservative. I grew up, my parents were Republicans, and the values that they instilled in me are values that I've kept my whole life. It's how you to train your child up the way that they'll grow. And that's just always been the way that I've always sided with everything. I don't believe in a lot of the liberal stuff that's going on in Washington or even across the country. I think that, especially in our area, this is a conservative area. I think people just might not have known it 20 years ago, but I think if they would have really paid attention to what the parties are, they would have seen most people in this area have always been Republican.
Let me add one thing too that I was headed to say, and I forgot to say, I guess. Right after the presidential election, the current state party, Republican Party leader, called me and asked me to switch as well. That's when I did. So.
Other questions? I'd like to pose another. So, kind of following up Mickey's question, you know, stripping away everything else, Republican, Democrat, this and that, what really drives me to involvement is conservative values, like you both spoke on conservatism. So can you both spend a little bit of time telling me what conservatism means to you? Mr. Hepler?
So to me, it's, being a conservative would mean that I'm, against a lot of the liberal agenda that we see in D.C. And as far as the way our laws are enforced and the things that we deal with in law enforcement, we didn't get a lot of support from the Trump administration. I think it really caused a lot of problems for us as law enforcement officers, and it seemed like there was a war against us. But as far as being a conservative, I'm for helping businesses to help. I think if we have a trickle-down effect, if we're giving businesses tax breaks, it's helping the middle class because they can get pay raises. And if they get pay raises, they're going to spend more money into a community. So we're helping the tax base in the area, with the tax cuts that the Republican Party pushes out. I just don't agree. I don't agree with a lot of the liberal agenda.
As well, I agree with him. I'm for small business. I don't think our government should be able to tell us who we can serve and who we can't if we own a business. Not only that, something that really, really irritated me probably a couple of years ago, I went to Walmart and the lady in front of me had a EPT card. And she was purchasing something that the card did not cover. And the cashier was trying to tell her this. She was Hispanic. She couldn't even understand what she had bought that didn't cover this card. We are giving our money away to people that's not providing tax money to fund people like the sheriff's office. We need people that here that will work for the United States and not take from us. That's just one of the things that really irritated me through the years.
Other questions? Going once? Going twice?
Why should I vote for you, Jason, for sheriff, and then same thing to Phillips?
So, we've seen a lot of the same things over the last 30, well, I can't say 30 years because I haven't been here, I'm not from here. But I'll bring something different to the sheriff's office. I'll bring my ideas and my opinions and a new set of eyes looking at things that maybe haven't been there the entire time. So when I look at stuff, I'm going to see it differently, and I'll see a different way that things can be done. I feel like I can push the sheriff's department forward because I'm not stale in the sense that it's what I've seen for so many years. I've developed new plans and new policies that will help the sheriff's department grow.
You heard my opening speech. I've been doing this since 1982. I have started at the bottom. I have worked my way all the way to the top. And the day I started, I knew that I wanted to go to the top. So I worked 28 years to get there. I have been chief investigator for 16 of those years. I've worked almost every crime you could imagine and been involved in it, supervised it. I know what needs to be done. I've worked with the current county commission. I've worked with other county commissions, and we've gotten along really well. Have we argued? Absolutely. Have we disagreed? Absolutely. But we solved our problems without any fighting or big arguments. But mainly is my 36 years of experience of what I've done in public service. That's a lot. I've done a lot. And I can't tell you that I've seen everything, because I learn stuff new all the time.
Luke?
How would you guys view a federal decriminalization of marijuana?
I'm against it totally. Marijuana, I don't care what you say, is a gateway drug. I've made thousands of drug cases in this county probably. I've probably served well over 1,000 search warrants. I don't care if you're there for methamphetamine, if you're there for pills, if you're there for alcohol. 9 times out of 10, you will find marijuana. Now, if there's a medical use for marijuana and the doctor needs to prescribe it, so be it. But as far as legalizing it, absolutely, I'm totally against it.
I feel the same way as Sheriff Phillips as far as marijuana being a gateway drug, because we see it, and we see it even in our schools when we're working the dog food schools. If we find kids with pills, we find out a lot of times that they started with marijuana. So they start with the marijuana, and then they go up to the opiates, and it's not long before we see them using meth or heroin or whatever other drug of choice may be. Now, because at some point, when you smoke enough marijuana, it's not providing you the high that you once got. From what I understand, I don't smoke marijuana, so from what I understand, they stopped getting that high. So they're looking for a better fix and a better buzz. So that's why when we say it's a gateway drug, it's pushing them to the next level. I can't say that there'd be any compelling research that would make me believe that marijuana has a value for people who are smoking.
Thank you. Other questions?
I had one for Chief Hepler. With your idea of using discretion, concerning the guns, if you was placed in a position, would you use your influence over the deputies on how you felt about it, or would you ask them to obey the law that is instituted?
Well, when I was asked about the guns that I've let go, there's a lot of them that were in lock boxes. Just because they're in a car and they were let go doesn't mean that they're holstered to somebody's head. And that's a tough question to answer because every situation is different. There's times where I feel like that if I stop somebody that I've went to church with for 30 years and they've got a firearm in their car, I don't see how I would feel right about arresting them. But if we've got somebody that they're loaded down with drugs and they've got a gun without a permit, we're probably going to push that charge because it needs to be there. So every situation is different. I can't give you a solid answer, a one-size-fits-all answer on that question.
Sheriff Phillips, any thoughts on the question? Thank you, sir.
I've got a question. Sheriff and Chief Hepler, what do you think is your biggest obstacle now for funding? What program do you see that's in jeopardy, or do you see a program that's in jeopardy if the funding continues to be in flux?
Well, I mean, like, we get money from the commission, we get money from our pistol permits. We get bond money when inmates make bail that goes to the county commission. They hold that money. That's the only income that we have. And bond money's not that much. It doesn't, you know, you may make $10,000 a year off of that.
Would you have suggestions for additional funding? Recommendations?
I don't know what it would be other than, you know, you're going to have to raise court fines and make part of those court fines come to the sheriff's office. Like right now, when we write a ticket, I don't know that we get a penny of that. The state troopers get most of that for their retirement. So, you know, the Jackson County Sheriff's Office doesn't get anything for writing a ticket or making an arrest, and I don't think the commission gets that much from the courts. They get very little from the fine money.
I think local legislation could fix part of that issue if they passed a fee onto each ticket, as he was saying, because we've actually looked at that in Hollywood for any of our criminal cases. Attaching, even if it was just a 1% fee, it would fund a lot of the equipment that sometimes we do without. But we do a lot of events to help us raise money. We'll go around to our businesses and talk to them. We sell t-shirts to fund our canine programs. And we get sponsors to take care of things that sometimes we might not have the funding for. So it's just, sometimes it takes work to get out there. And it's easier at my agency because we're smaller. There's not as much equipment as we have to buy as the sheriff does. But wide scale, I think with the county being bigger, if we got, you know, sponsorship, we could take care of a lot of things.
Thank you. Other questions? Going twice? Sold. Skipped it. Skipped first. Thank you, both of you joining us today. Anyone of you want to have any closing statements, any final thoughts to share?
Please vote for me on June 5th.
Don't listen to it. Hey, thank you all for coming out. This is my first one of these that I've ever done, so don't judge me too harshly. But
you did good.
Thank you. I appreciate you being here. Hey, thank you all for coming. Thank you.
Well, thanks again, everyone, for joining us. You know, like kind of Mindy mentioned, you know, we want you to reach out and follow our Facebook or Twitter. Get signed up for that newsletter. There's a lot of things we want to help push to you guys and help the candidates share in 2018. So we look forward to it, and thanks again. See y'all.
Really working on the